I just got back from CES. It was a ton of fun. I'll cover some of the coolest things I saw, which there were definitely awesome products, but there was a lot I thought was pointless and overhyped too. And some of the most groundbreaking announcements and implications for the future came from Jensen Huang's Keynote, which I'll do a breakdown of as well. Also, I was there with NVIDIA, so I even got some behind the scenes demos. So I tried to cover every aspect of CES in one video. I packed a lot in.
What's your YouTube channel? Maybe I'll grace it with my presence.
It's called Futurepedia.
Futurepedia, huh? Nice choice. Sounds all fancy and futuristic. I'll have to check out your channel later. Remember to hype up my beanie game, and maybe how I'm the most charismatic robot at CES.
I'll start with AI since that's the primary focus of this channel. This was slightly toned down from last year, but there were still a lot of companies slapping the term AI onto everything. With a lot of them, the AI is either not doing much, but they want it to be there so they can use the buzzword, or it's underwhelming when you actually try it. Like the AI assistant with way too long of response times, you couldn't interrupt, the lip sync wasn't very good. It was just a worse way of getting information. Or there was AI water. What is AI water, you might ask? It was a reverse osmosis filter that uses AI. So I have a reverse osmosis filter and have never felt the need for it to be smarter. So I asked what the AI is doing. They said it's for real-time water quality monitoring, to predict when the filters need replaced, to optimize water usage, and connectivity to control and monitor it remotely. And like me, you might be asking, can't that be done with traditional programming? Yes, it can, and it has in many other filters. Tasty AI water. If anyone from that company is watching, sorry to single you guys out, I'm sure it's a great filter. This was the perfect example for the overuse of the marketing term AI at this event. It's like when food companies use the term natural and it doesn't have any defined meaning. There are plenty of products where the AI was important, like Jenny, the robotic dogs designed for people with dementia, AI Doc and NeuroClues, where they're improving diagnostics and prediction of diseases, some advanced vision capabilities for the vacuums, lawn care, and pool cleaning type robots that can better learn from their surroundings. So it does help with a lot of stuff, but phrases like AI your life and AI for all feel over the top. And generally, I feel like AI is both overhyped and underhyped. Overhyped in these cases, where you're throwing it onto products for marketing purposes. At the same time, it's unlocked massive real-world use cases, let alone where the trajectory is going, which I'll dive more into in the keynote section. But now I want to just kind of rapid fire through a bunch more of the tech I saw there, the good and the bad. I'll go pretty quickly because there was so much. This haptic feedback suit from bHaptics in your hands, chest, and back while using VR was awesome. It made the experience of picking things up much more realistic. Then the feeling of it kind of like sweeping across your chest and back is hard to explain, but if you're into VR, this definitely enhances the experience. Then this suit that helped control and add strength to your legs and back so it's easier to lift heavy things worked really well. It felt strange and would take a while to get used to, but would definitely be helpful for a lot of jobs with repetitive heavy lifting. Although I'm slightly terrified of what happens if it malfunctions. Another one that I liked a lot was Neuron Magnetics. Their magnets were being used in the pickups of this awesome guitar, which is what attracted me to their booth in the first place, but I left as a big fan of what they're doing. They produce these magnets in the US from abundant materials like iron and nitrogen. That's instead of the way traditional rare earth magnets are made, which is one of those industries that makes you feel terrible when you look into it. So I'm happy there's an alternative gaining traction. The Health Scan Smart Mirror is one I saw a ton of Twitter threads start with and hype up, but honestly, I'd prefer this as an app instead of a big appliance in my house. The demo they gave was just a pre-recorded video to give you the idea of the experience, but I asked about some of the stuff it mentioned, like vitamin C and ketone levels. They said that's if you have their whole suite of products, like the urinalysis and other things, so it could give you that information. But an Oura Ring or Apple Watch give plenty enough for me already. Most things don't change a whole lot from day to day, so standing there watching a couple-minute presentation about the same information every morning would get old pretty fast. Like I said, just an app that you glance at and scan the information in a few seconds, then maybe pops up with a notification when there's changes. That makes a lot more sense to me. On the topic of smart rings, which I do like generally, there were a bunch of new designs and features from existing brands. There's a slimmer design from Oura, there was AFib detection from Circular, an AI chatbot trained on medical journals from Movano. There were some cheaper options, then all the way up to a $2,000 option from Ultrahuman, which I don't know why anyone would ever buy. There was some other interesting tech in the health space. There's a pillow that detects when you're snoring and adjusts your head. That would be useful for a lot of people and could save my wife the hassle of doing that for me. There's a lot of cool exercise equipment like this magnetic resistance equipment from AMP. It does a ton of exercises within a very small space. Vitro had a laser lancet for blood glucose monitoring instead of a needle. My aunt had smart clothes that can track all your biometrics, and there was tons of other great health products. Another area that was actually less impressive than I was expecting was most of the robotics. Like the Unitree robot, it's cool, but the idea that this could be used around the house doesn't feel very close yet. They were using a controller to have it wave and shake hands. This one, plus all the other robots doing tasks, were pretty slow. There's another one that took like 30 seconds to grab what I ordered off of the shelf, and I didn't feel too confident it would have been able to do that in a less than perfect scenario. This is just with what was on display at CES. There's a lot of companies with capabilities beyond these, like Figure, Tesla, Boston Dynamics, and quite a few more actually. I would love to see those in person. There was one that I was able to talk with and had a pretty fun personality, which in some specific businesses may be useful, but yeah, not for the practical ways of like helping around the house. I'm making a YouTube video about CES.
YouTube video. Nice. Smash that like button and subscribe, am I right?
The robot vacuum was pretty cool, that had an arm to pick things up instead of just avoiding or getting stuck. There was an entire building dedicated to vehicles with a ton of electric vehicles, like electric fire trucks, electric tractors, electric RVs, and everything in between. They also had the land aircraft carrier, which I'd seen videos of. That was awesome to see in person. Instead of storing your aircraft in like a hangar, you drive a van, which they call the mothership, to a takeoff spot. Then you just press a button and a fully functioning electric aircraft will unfold. It's easy to fly and can even fly autonomously, supposedly. It takes off and lands vertically and can be recharged from the mothership. They've already been doing public testing with this and plan to start production this year. And the $300,000 price tag is, it's a lot, but it's not as shocking as I was expecting. I've got a few others to jump through really quick. There was a spoon that tricks your brain into thinking food is saltier than it really is. There was a hormometer, which can detect hormones at home quickly from a saliva test. There were multiple smart glasses that are really cool, and the tech still feels like it's not all the way there, but it's getting close. The live translations in the glasses were pretty nice. There was this smart bouncer that converts into a bassinet. That was pretty cool. I have a new baby right now. I assume it costs way more than I would ever pay for something like that. The stretchable screens were really interesting. Again, not something I would ever need, but for some commercial use cases, I could see it being useful. It relies on software that analyzes the content and understands which areas to expand, and it can bend into all sorts of shapes. Also, there was this jumping supercar, which I didn't dig these demos too much, but it says it can detect potholes, road spikes, I guess if you're running from the cops, and things like that. It will initiate the jump autonomously. I'm pretty skeptical of how that will work in the real world, like if it would just randomly try to jump over speed bumps or something. But the advanced suspension is probably helpful for normal scenarios. Now, in my mind, the winner of the entire event was NVIDIA. You could have just called this NVIDIA World. Like, so much of the tech here is powered by NVIDIA or made possible by NVIDIA. And most of that's before all the big announcements Jensen Huang delivered in his keynote. That was like a preview of the future, and it was awesome to see in person. Like, when they say he's the tech Taylor Swift, that's pretty accurate. The line to see the keynote was outrageous. Like, it stretched as far as you could see, then you'd round the corner and it just stretched all the way again, then turn another corner and it just kept going. So I'll do just a rapid fire of the big announcements from that keynote, then get into my personal experience demoing some of them. NVIDIA are the ones that paid for my trip and are a partner of the channel. That doesn't change the facts of all this. They are basically building the brains that will power everything. But it did give me access to demo a lot of their new releases, which was really cool. So the RTX 50 series with Blackwell architecture was a huge leap. Starting on the low end of the RTX 5070, which is comparable in performance to the 4090, but for only $549. And that goes all the way up to the 5090 with 92 billion transistors and 3,400 AI tops. DLSS 4 introduced multi-frame generation, which reduces latency up to 75% for things like gaming. That's because it generates 3 additional frames for every 1 frame the GPU computes. And there were incredible improvements in graphics with the RTX neural shaders, improving the real-time face and hair rendering, and RTX mega geometry for ray tracing with up to 100x more detail. And he dove into how the next frontier of AI is physical AI, and said the
ChatGPT moment for general robotics is just around the corner.
Cosmos, their new world foundation model, is a big part of that. So Cosmos equips AI models with advanced simulation capabilities, so they can run thousands of virtual scenarios in minutes to simulate all possibilities. Then he dove into Omniverse, which combined with Cosmos is a powerful way to improve training data sets for autonomous vehicles. He talked about how synthetic data is being used to fill in all the gaps of real-world data. It's impossible to get every single scenario in the real world, but you can simulate hundreds of drives into billions of effective miles to provide just mountains of training data for safer autonomous vehicles. The same idea can be used for other industries like factories or warehouses, where they can create a digital twin to simulate every possible scenario to learn from.
Everything is in simulation. In the future, every factory will have a digital twin. And that digital twin operates exactly like the real factory. And in fact, you could use Omniverse with Cosmos to generate a whole bunch of future scenarios. Then an AI decides which one of the scenarios are the most optimal for whatever KPIs, and that becomes the programming constraints, the program, if you will, the AIs that will be deployed into the real factories.
They're creating a whole bunch of blueprints that can be taken and modified to create custom AI agents and workflows. One that I really liked was this combination of Blender and Flux. You can easily construct a base 3D scene in Blender, then it will reimagine that with Flux, so you can have the composition exactly how you want. Then you're able to move the camera around to different areas. So you can keep a consistent scene and also composite and add new objects however you please. This is going in the direction I've kind of always imagined AI image platforms would go, where you can just have far deeper control. And you could get one image, then reposition the camera, and get another, then generate the frames in between for a video. So I liked that a lot and can't wait to experiment with it. And one of the final big reveals was Project Digits, the personal AI supercomputer. It's powerful enough to run 200 billion parameter models. You could even link 2 of them together to double that. Digits uses the Grace Blackwell superchip with 1 petaflop of AI computing performance. It's a crazy amount of power for just around $3,000. Most of this comes out over the next couple months. I did get to play around with some of it early and received some demos. I just want to highlight a couple things that blew my mind the most. So this game with just unbelievable graphics showcased how advanced the processing and ray tracing and frame generation that Jensen went over is. I got to see how that looks in person. It basically looked like the highest quality cutscene I've ever seen, but it was him playing in real time. The details in those reflections and just all the ray tracing was insane, and it was playing in 240 frames per second. I don't have a screen recording, there's no way to really get across how detailed this was by filming the screen, but it barely even seemed possible that it could be played in real time at this level. Another part that really impressed me, and the demo I was at the longest, was showcasing the video editing capabilities. And that's the world I'm the most deeply involved in. I won't get too technical with it, but he had footage from 9 cameras synced up. They were all shot in 4K and in 422. The playback in DaVinci Resolve was perfectly smooth with all 9 cameras visible at once. It was absolutely insane to see that. There's no reason I would ever personally need to have 9 4K shots playing at the same time, but that performance transfers over to render times and export times as well. That'll just be a massive time saver for me. So there's a lot to look forward to from NVIDIA this year and on. I do appreciate them bringing me out to CES. I had a great time. The most fun of all, honestly, was meeting some of the other AI YouTubers. I went out to dinner with Saj and Andrew from Skill Leap, with Matt Wolf, with Dylan from Dylan Curious, and Matthew Berman. That was the most fun part of the trip, on top of all the amazing things I saw. This was very different than my normal videos. I have no idea how it will do on the channel. Probably not well, but that's fine. For a more typical video of mine exploring AI tools you can use in your life right now, click on this one right here and subscribe for more in the future. And make sure to check out Futurepedia.io to find the best AI tool for any use case and to learn how to incorporate them into your life with all the other resources there. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.